Hello, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to the fourth Bitcoin Ireland conference. Thanks for joining us. We have people here from all over the world. Yeah, very international array of people, speakers, sponsors, and welcome.
Bitcoin Ireland 2025. Welcome folks, great to see everyone here. Thanks for coming out and supporting it. I suppose first off we'll just say, don't be shy and try and introduce yourself to the people around you just whenever you sit down. That's why we gave you the name tags. You know, Bitcoin's a community and it's stronger as a community, so, you know, just we like the vibe for Bitcoin Ireland to be friendly and for people just to be encouraged to go and be awkward and talk to each other, whether you want to or not. Tough luck.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in and thank all the sponsors and all the speakers that are after flying in. And you can just check out the website for www.Bitcoin Ireland for the agenda. You can have a look at everything that's on there, yeah? And the workshops are inside as well.
Yeah, so the entire day's schedule is on the website. You may or may not know that exists. If you Google Bitcoin Ireland, you'll find it, www.bitcoinireland.eu as the full agenda. So you can plan your day, and there's also 4 interactive workshops, and you can book into them through the website. So check it out if you want to see what's happening and sort of arrange your day. It's a busy day, there's a lot going on. So yeah, have a look at the website and plan your day. And
then next door, just the main conference room. And next door, there's another big room in there. You can have a look at our art gallery in there. We have some beautiful art in there, and there's a lot of there's a workshop in there. We have four workshops ongoing during the day. There's one after starting out there. People want to go out there and check it out. And yeah, so just walk around and talk to everybody. Have an amazing day.
We have some swag out there. There's what have you got, Lawrence? Wooden spoons.
Theo's out there. Go and talk to him.
Chopping boards, t-shirts, bits and pieces. Go check it out. Bitcoin With Dinny is running a competition for a free retire early club spot. You just join our newsletter. You can do that outside. Yeah, float around, have the crack. It's going to be an awesome day. Tag us on social media if you're getting any footage at bitcoinconf.irl, bitcoinconf.irl, or just search for Bitcoin Ireland on the socials, or at Bitcoin With Dinny. And yeah, we'll reshare all your stuff, try and put it out there. And every year this conference seems to be growing and growing and growing. And there's faces here that I've seen for 4 years, so it's awesome. And then there's new faces coming every single year. We're growing, so it's fantastic. So yeah, the more social media, the better. Get it out there. And yeah, I think that's it. If you want to.
Yeah, and then just Jana here. There's a bit of something happened. I said, Jana, come out for a minute, quick. One of the artists, she had a few things out on the table there, and people were picking them up, but they were actually art. So
if you stole the art, please return it. You don't know you stole it. You stole it by accident.
It's really nice to meet you, and I can also repeat. I'm presenting the art gallery from also the online gallery BTC for Art. I'm one of the artists, and I really have to tell you that I'm so sorry, but accidentally maybe made you to be a thief or giving you a chance to meet me, because I put some artworks on the table, just went out to get the prize shield and came back and all of them were missing. So if you accidentally lose them on the same table as you found them, or let's just make a friendship out of it. I'm sure no one wanted to steal some art.
No. Okay, let the show go on the road, okay? Thank you. Jordy, okay, the first speaker we have up is Jordy. He's going to be talking about digital sovereignty through Nostr. And take it away, Jordy.
Thank you, Lawrence. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Jordi. I come from Spain. More precisely from this little region that likes to think about sovereignty. Can you guess? Where is it from? Exactly, Catalonia. You Irish get us. So, but don't worry. I'm not going to talk about politics. I'm going to tell you how each one of us can be sovereign individually online. And we're going to do that through Nostr. So to tell you a little bit more about Nostr, let me get a use case, the use case of the social media, right? I have put some logos here of some social media platforms that what they do is like they compete with each other to get your attention. The more minutes you are in front of your phone, the more they're winning. And it's free, or they say so because you are the product, that's why it's free. And because like I have prepared here like a little topics, like they are centralized, so each one of them is like what I like to call like their house. When you enter to LinkedIn, it's their house. So when you come to my house, I have my own rules. For example, I have to ask you, can you take your shoes off? Right? So their house, their rules. It's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. We just need to understand that this is what we are playing with. And the problem with those big platforms is that they create like these silos. So for example, there are many platforms to find a job, but we only talk about LinkedIn. Or there are many platforms to discover content creators. We talk about YouTube. And there are platforms to make friends, but we only talk about Facebook, or to make enemies, maybe Twitter. So the problem with those things is that once they become so big, you do not have any other options to go to. And that's because of the network effects, right? So the bigger you are, the more complicated it is for another platform to tap into that market. So then they become the incumbents. And it's like, okay, it's fine. What's wrong with that? Well, the winner takes all. And again, so if my house is the most popular house in the street, you'll come to my house because you want to hang out with the cool kids, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. We just need to understand that we are sharing all of our information over there. Just think about it. These people own your data. So another thing that when you're playing with social media, what happens? We say, yeah, I can share all the pictures that I'm having, or I can have all these conversations, or I can talk about anything because I have nothing to hide. Well, if you have nothing to hide, why are all of you wearing clothes today? Okay, maybe you say, no, because it's cold and it's convenient. Okay, there's another example. Curtains. Why do you guys have curtains at home? Curtains are useless. Yeah, we have windows and they insulate. We are not living in a world where the heat or the cold comes from outside. So we have curtains, it's fine. We have something to hide. We all have something to hide, and it's good to have something to hide. The idea is that we can choose with whom we are sharing this information. And I have this other example, the private conversations. Why are we having private conversations if we have nothing to hide? No, we want to keep our privacy, so we have things to hide. Let me give you this example. I have this friend, she had an Instagram account where she posted like pictures of silly cats doing silly stuff. Well, she doesn't have it anymore because Instagram decided that that was against the terms and conditions of the platform. What are those terms and conditions? Those things that we sign and we say, next, 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 yes, 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 I sell my soul to whichever platform. And she tried to fight for it and get it back. She never got it because she's nobody. She's just like, it was just a dumb account. But with this example, which you might say, it's useless, who cares, it was just a dumb silly cats account. Think about the creators. You'll see today here a lot of content creators, a lot of Bitcoin podcasters and video creators. So one thing is that you're posting stupid things on the internet that nobody cares about. But once your lifestyle depends on that, you start thinking about, where am I posting these things? And let me give you an example. If you look for your favorite YouTuber, blogger, content creator, you'll see that he doesn't only have one social platform. He normally has to duplicate his content anywhere. And once he's done it, he also, in the same platform, he has like a secondary account or a third. Why do they do that? There are many reasons, maybe like targeted audiences or different topics, but one of the reasons is that the fear they have of losing their account. If they lose their account, they lose their income. So this is the situation today with social media platforms, because they own your data. So when you get in one of those platforms, you think that, no, it's my pictures. No, it's never your pictures. Once you upload a picture on Instagram, it's a picture owned by Instagram. You're just a person that has access until they say the opposite, to view this content. And some platforms, they don't even allow you to edit this content. But an employee from Instagram, he can come. Imagine you post a picture, oh, I'm having so much fun today here at Bitcoin Ireland. If any employee with a little bit of a higher rank enters into your account and says, I hate Bitcoin, they ruined your reputation. They can do that. Their house, their rules, they can change anything because it's not your content. You are just a provider of content that is attached to your name or to your user account. So that's why today I'm here to talk about Nostr. It's a protocol, the protocol for freedom. What is a protocol? This is not going to be a technical talk. At 11, I run a workshop about Nostr, so if any of you is more curious about what I'm touching on the surface today, come later at this other room nearby, and then we can play, and I can tell you how to onboard on Nostr. So what is a protocol? I want to give you like an example, like a dining protocol. If we have like a fine dine, and we have to agree on, okay, we're gonna dress like this way, we're gonna eat this type of food, we have to put the cutlery here, and there. That's a protocol. A protocol is just an agreement of set of rules that all that participate in this fine dining, they agree on. Let me give you another example of a protocol on the internet. And all of you use it every day, probably. And this is email. It doesn't matter if I have a Gmail account and I send you an email through Proton and you send an email to another person with Outlook. It doesn't matter. You know, I don't have to send an email to another person that has the same tool that I'm using, which is Gmail. No, because all those tools are clients that are built on top of an underlying protocol that is called the internet. So the email. So Nostr is the same, right? It's a protocol. And in top of Nostr, you can build many things. I started my talk talking about the use case of social networks, but there are other use cases. So let me tell you the 9 core principles of Nostr, and based on that, maybe you can start thinking like, is it interesting to me or not? So the first, security. Nostr uses a type of security that we Bitcoiners know, which is the public and private keys encryption. So we don't have any more usernames and passwords. When you create an account on Instagram or whatever, what you're doing is like you are assigning an email normally with a password. But this data is stored in the computers of, in this case, of Instagram. So they can tell you that they're hash it and they're using like encryption mechanisms and blah, 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 but you never know if this is true and you don't know if there are backdoors or anything. On Nostr, because it's like this open source public and private keys system, you know it's everything you store there, it's completely private, nobody can get into it. Second principle, interoperability. Okay, let me explain you this with an example. Imagine you are a content creator, you created this YouTube account, you put all this effort, you're doing a podcast a day, and you have raised your audience, and you have like 5 million followers. Then after that, you have to start creating a new follow-up in Twitter, for example. In Nostr, you can bring your followers from one place to another one. I'm gonna run, because there are many more, censorship resistant. Everything you do, it's not based on one single server. Open source, because it's open source, anybody can check the protocol and see if there are vulnerabilities, etc. Decentralized, because nothing is stored in the same server, as I was saying before. Verifiable, this is, I think, my favorite one and the one that you have to remember the most. Everything you post on Nostr, you can verify you posted it. It's not attached to your identity. It doesn't have to be like your real identity, but your account, the account that you created. So this is very good to avoid spam, fake news, or these fake videos that they create. Everything you post, if somebody touches something, 1 pixel, you can verify it has been edited. Flexible, you can build many things. It's confidential. We can have like a private conversation with it using Nostr chat, which is completely secure because you're using your private keys. And of course, all of this together brings you sovereignty. Anything you do on the internet, you can say you are the one that built it. I wanted to talk about the nomad effect, but then I don't have time. So I want to tell you what Nostr use cases are there. And I started with the social network. Those are some of the apps that you can play. But Nostr is not a social network. It's a protocol, and you can build many things on top, like music and podcasts, like a marketplace to sell and buy used goods, productivity tools, messaging, as I was saying, encrypted messaging, streaming video, and travel and social. I work for Atlantis. This is a social network plus directory for travelers, and we are using Nostr. All those things can be, all these apps are like, it's like an ecosystem of apps. Those are just a couple. There are hundreds of apps. You can log in using the same username. So if you create a social, it's called the social graph. If you create like some reputation on a social network, then you can bring the same reputation to a streaming video content or to another platform. So I'm done with my talk. If anybody wants to know a little bit more about Nostr, come join to the at 11 at the workshop area. And if you want to know more, feel free to engage with me in my socials. I'm Jordi Young. You can play around with Atlantis. If you want to know more about that, come to my workshop. Look for me. I'm wearing this hat all day. I have like this cool T-shirt saying I'm a Bitcoiner. Come reach out to me. Thank you for your time and enjoy your day.
Hello. Okay, next we have up Munich Mining, and she's going to be talking about mining and everything. Come on up. Rusanda from Munich Mining.
So, hello everyone, I am Rusudank Onyashvili and I'm a miner. So, I work for Munich International Mining and I do business operations. I'm a manager of business operations. And, well, before we go to the topic, I would like to show you something nice. While talking about mining, you can see one of our freshly mined blocks here in the middle. I don't know, if you check mempool a lot, maybe you have come across us already and you might know about us. And so, the topic that I'm going to discuss with you all today is Bitcoin mining is broken and only plebs can fix it. And let's start with a simple question. So, what went wrong with Bitcoin mining? Because if we all think about it, we somehow feel that something is broken. But before we go into the topic and speak about the details, I would like to highlight why Bitcoin mining is important at all. Because, you know, some people are like, okay, I bought Bitcoin and I'm good, I don't need to mine. So, the thing that keeps Bitcoin mining decentralized, confirming transactions, securing the network, and all the things that we so like about Bitcoin in general were made possible because of proof of work. So, to say it really simply, if there's no proof of work, then there's no Bitcoin. It's as simple as that. And back to the topic, like, what do I actually mean when I say that Bitcoin mining is broken, you may ask. And that's not a surprising question. So, Bitcoin was designed, and I mean is designed to be decentralized, right? And this is one of the things that we really like about it. And so, The network is for everyone to join. So everyone with a computer can actually start mining and secure the network. At least this is how it was before, but I don't think that it's the case anymore. Why? Because I would say that Bitcoin mining is becoming more centralized now. So fewer and fewer players control more and more of a network. And why I say this, because let's think about it. Like, who is able to mine especially profitable right now? It's not your average Bitcoiner. It's not even your above average Bitcoiner. It's mostly big corporations and governments and maybe even some oil companies, or I don't know, people with a lot of money and power. And at this point, if we think about it, it somehow goes against the ethos and basics of the Bitcoin, right? And so, it is somehow becoming similar to a system that Bitcoin was supposed to replace. And let's talk about the root problems now. So what caused it? To mine Bitcoin profitably, you need at least two things. One of them is dirt cheap electricity, which we all know that is not that accessible. And especially the people from Europe, I'm pretty sure all of you can agree with me that electricity is far from cheap. And even if we mine in our own homes, it costs quite a lot. So for me, for example, it doesn't really make much sense to mine at home. And then you also need to have hardware, like new, nice miners, which are gonna mine, right? Because if you don't have a miner, then yeah. And to top it all up, it's like Bitcoin mining is not just plug and play. It's complicated. It requires quite some knowledge, and it also requires infrastructure, especially if you are going to do it at scale. And so what is the solution here? Some may say that BTX is a solution. And I mean, BTX is wonderful. Those small miners which are like really user-friendly, and actually everyone who wants to use it, they can use it. And they're really affordable, they're not expensive. And it's really, really cool. But let's put it into perspective now. So this is actually our farm in Ethiopia. And to match even our small farm's hash rate, we would need around 1.5 million of those devices, which is like, if you stack them on each other, you would get the height of 33 Mount Everests, which is, I don't even know how many kilometers that is, to be honest, but I would say somewhere the distance between Dublin and Manchester or Liverpool, I don't know. But let's say that we made it possible and we fit all the miners in here. So somehow it was possible. Even then, it would be even less than 0.1% of the global network. So BitX is amazing. Once again, we love it. It's great for deepening your knowledge, but this is simply not designed for mining at scale. And so this is where we come into the game, which are like miners who do and offer hosting services. And this is what we do. And in this farm, actually, most of the miners that we have here are owned not by big corporations or something. Most of the miners are owned by individuals, by Bitcoiners who actually want to secure the network and who actually are really passionate about it. And it is amazing, in my opinion, to give the chance to everyone who wants to mine, to mine. And so, wherever the miners go, they bring pretty good things with them. What I mean by that is wherever you go, you need local people to help you. Because, for example, when we're in Ethiopia and we're mining, it's not like the whole company goes there, right? And we have mining farms all over the world. So you actually need local people to help you. And in most of the countries, there are not so many people, I mean, in the world in general, there are still not so many people who know much about mining. Then again, it's complicated. And so I would say that we orange fill most of the people because we train them, we get the knowledge, and then they, maybe not everyone, but most of the people also become Bitcoiners. So we spread the world about Bitcoin, which is amazing in my opinion. And so while we're at it, I also really wanted to touch the topic, which is the human side of Bitcoin. Bitcoin mining, I mean. So what people often forget about is that Bitcoin mining is not just machines running somewhere in the warehouse. It is actually people who are behind all the running machines, and these people make everything work. So behind every running machine, what I mean to say is that there is the whole ecosystem of processes and people who put tons of efforts into making everything smooth, and I really think that we should all respect them. I really do. And so, what happens? The thing is, actually, let's take my example. Before I started working for this field, I didn't really know much about Bitcoin, let alone Bitcoin mining. Yeah, of course, I knew that there is this cryptocurrency which is called Bitcoin, and somehow it's cool, but that was it. And the touch point for me to start learning about Bitcoin was starting mining with my company. And it was, I came to know the whole idea about it, like behind it. And it is the same for a lot of people. For example, the locals that we train, and they also get to learning, and it empowers people. So I just wanted to highlight that mining, Bitcoin mining, is the touch point of learning about Bitcoin for many people like me. And yeah, right now I'm able to be on the stage and talk to you about how Bitcoin mining is very important. And I'm really happy about it, and thankful too. And so, we give back to the places wherever we go. Because if you want to start mining at scale at that, you need infrastructure. If there is no infrastructure, I mean, look at all these things, like, it's not possible to mine without infrastructure. And so, wherever miners go, they build infrastructure and they train people, like, it brings many, many good things. I can also take as an example Finland, where we also mine, and in Finland, the heat that is produced by the miners is used for heating the houses of the people, which is not simply efficient. I really think that it's wonderful. And Bitcoin mining is not just miners running in the warehouse, just like I said before. There's so many good things about it, and like behind it, there's like many, many good things that Bitcoin mining can actually empower. And so, getting to the topic. Munich International Mining is a very small puzzle of the whole picture. But it doesn't really matter who you choose to mine with. Just make sure that you choose a good partner, a reliable one, and then everybody can mine with whoever, or you can do it solo as well, for example, like BitX, like we said, if you just want to secure the network and, you know, like if you're not passionate about making Bitcoin out of it. And it doesn't matter if it's in Ethiopia or Europe or America, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you actually mine. And let's build it block by block. And make Bitcoin mining what it was meant to be, which is accessible, open to everyone, and empowering. And so, thank you everyone for listening. You can scan this QR code. This is the website of our company. So you can check out our booth as well. It's right there, called Munich International Mining. It's blue, you will spot it easily. And have fun.
Thank you to Russo from Munich International Mining, who are actually a sponsor here, and they've got a booth out in the expo area, so make sure you go and check them out. Our next speaker is going to speak about Bitcoin and sovereignty, things that sound like they should match pretty well. And so please give us a round of applause for Carol Deans, folks. Thank you.
But whilst we're getting set up then, I will start. So good morning everyone, how are you doing? Wow, lots of faces looking at me, this is interesting. So, anyone's first time here, give me a wave, let's get to know the crowd. There's loads of you, excellent. Now, let's see, is there anyone here from the Sovereign Project Network? There's a few of you, yes, good morning. Scott, how you doing? I'm not seeing you yet, brilliant. Now, next question, is anyone here Sovereign? Exactly the right answer. And if anyone put their hand up, I was going to question you and challenge you on that fact. So yeah, are we all ready to roll? We are ready to roll. So, the words, oh, hang on a minute, it's not even on. Let's, okay, so it's on the laptop. Oh, it takes a few moments. Okay then, so let's see when we get to start. So, what does sovereign mean? I'm going to just let that lay with you for a minute. I'm going to come back to that one. Okay? So the Sovereign Project, who are we? What do we do? We have full knowledge of the world of commerce today. So commerce is business, business is contract. We have full knowledge of the law, the legal system, taxation, monetary system, and most importantly, legal title and corporate jurisdiction. And this is where I think it's really, really important for, oh, I'm still in front of the screen, I do apologise. Where it's really, really important for, I don't want to use this word, the Bitcoin community, which I'll touch on community in a minute because it's the wrong word to use, and I will say why. But there's a huge thing where we give away our rights, our freedoms, our wealth. And if you don't know what you're doing, you could give away your wealth quite easily. Okay, so we have to look at that. Now we've got a huge team: ex-lawyers, ex-solicitors, ex-police, ex-military, ex-doctors in the NHS. A very, very powerful team. We've got workshops all over the jurisdiction, UK and now global. We've got members in 75 different countries. Why? Because they're all learning how to protect their rights and their wealth. Very, very powerful stuff. So before I move on, I'm just going to go through my disclaimer, if this works. Here we go. Okay, so just to let you know, I do not practice law, and what that means, a salary. I do not get paid. Okay? Everything I should say is not advice. Okay? I'm going to give you some information. It's up to you if you want to take that information and start to get knowledgeable of it. I have a right of free speech, and it's up to you if you want to listen. Okay? Oh. Hello, how you doing? Who's got their phone on? Naughty boy. Okay. Ooh, Bitcoin. Who would like one of those? How many of those would you like? Infinity, right? Okay, so sovereign, what does it mean? So morphology now is a study of word. Sovereign, S-O-V means super, it means supreme. Sovereign means reign over your authority. Okay, authority, where does that word come from? Author. You are the author of your authority, but you give it away because you agree to legal title and jurisdiction. Ooh, what does that mean? What does that mean? Okay, this is a little bit slow. Right, so legal titles. Removal of your status is done by sleight of hand. And if you accept legal titles, you now are pulled into legislation where you're now governed and taxed, and there's a higher authority that has control over you. So what are legal titles? And this is where a lot of men and women go wrong and don't fully know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing with this blooming thing. Here we go. It is slow. Okay, so legal titles. Now you have many titles: people, person, Mr., human, citizen, and civilian. They all have different meanings that lower your status. So actually last night when I was in the hotel room, I'm thinking, why am I here today? Why am I speaking? Luckily, the organisers are on the sovereign journey. Some of the Bitcoiners here today are on the sovereign journey because they are now starting to see the importance of really understanding what sovereign means. So sovereign means supreme reign over your authority. So the question is to you guys and girls, do you have superior reign over your authority? And the answer to that question is no. Why? So what does person mean? Oh, who said that? Yes, correct. A person. So those of you that live in the jurisdiction of the UK, it's on your council tax bill. It says you are determined to be a person. If you agree to that, it lowers your status. You give away authority to the council for them to now penalise and fine you. A person has no rights. Only men and women have rights because rights come from you, but you give it away and you surrender your rights at every given stage. And that's my worry with anyone that's buying Bitcoin. You could give it away because you're agreeing to legal titles and registration, which I will touch on in a minute. So what does Mr. mean? Mr. is the lowest ranking officer on a vessel. So it's a military term. So if you're a Mr., you cannot question the general. Okay, this is why they have infantry in the army, because they're infants, they cannot speak. That's why you have a soldier, because he sold his soul to the service. This is what it all means. It's a study of words, giving away your authority and stepping into someone else's jurisdiction where they have authority over you. Now, citizen. What does citizen mean? Again, morphology, study of words. You have to break the word into two. C-I-T-I, city. If you agree to the title citizen, which is in everyone's passports, by the way, you now agree to the rules and regulations within that state, their estate, their corporate jurisdiction. And if you agree to the legal title citizen, guess what? You've given away power of attorney. You've given away your authority. Someone else has authority over you. And the last part of citizen is Zen. It means within. Okay, you can't think outside the box. You're classed as a simpleton. That means you should be governed and taxed. If you want to go and study this, and the young lady said it a minute ago, plebs, right? Plebs has a bigger meaning. There's a plebtorial system. So if you go back to the 1300s and look at the Roman era, the plebtorial system is where citizens were created. A citizen is not a nobleman, it's not an aristocrat, and you're not an advisor to the king. If you're not an advisor to the king, you're classed as a citizen and your status is lowered. You're known as a commoner, with no house, no name, no estate, governed and taxed. Okay? Very, very powerful stuff. You need to start to learn this. You need to start to learn it. Because you give away authority at any given stage. This is really slow. Come on, work. Here we go. Did that work? I might have gone ahead of one. But anyway, so, first line. Now, I don't like to use the word enslave. I like to use the word force and enforce. Again, this is the study of words. So if I use this young lady here, and I say to you, I'm going to force myself to say that you have to do this, this, and this every month. What are you going to say to me? Exactly, no, right? But if I said to you, I'm going to enforce policy upon you, you might go, what does that mean? So, again, if I was the Prime Minister or a councillor, and I said to you, right, I'm going to force you to do this, this, and this every month. You're going to say, sort of, do one, because it's face to face. But if I was to send you a letter through the post, and I said, you've got to do this, this, and this every month, this lady's like, these guys were looking at me quite weirdly, but anyway. Right? So if I say to you, send you a letter, you've got to do this, this, and this every month. If you don't do it, I'm going to fine you. If you don't pay that fine in 14 days, I'm going to increase the fine. You're going to do it. Because what have you just done? You've opened the envelope, you've fallen into someone else's jurisdiction, i.e. the council, and they now have authority over you. Why is that? Because on the front of the letter from the council, for example, it says Mr., the lowest ranking officer that can't speak. You've just given away your rights, you've opened the envelope, and you've now consented to be in their corporate jurisdiction. So enforce and force. If they put the word en in front of the word force, it means enforcing policy within a contract. So no one can force them, no one can force you to do anything, but they can enforce. And that's why they have enforcement cameras on the road for speeding. Enforce, or enforcing policy. Now, language. Our court system, our government, councils, they don't use Oxford English Dictionary. They use Black's Law's dictionary. It means words have different meanings. I've just talked about person, Mr., citizen, right? There's other words as well, like home, house, residential property, dwelling, all have different meanings, but you see that as your house and your home. If you accept the title dwelling, you've lowered your status massively. I'm doing a workshop at 4 o'clock. I'll go into a lot more detail. Next one, case, font, style. If you receive anything in the post, whether your name is in capital letters, guess what? That's your legal persona. That is not your name. That is their name that they control under the surname. If you receive a letter, say for example, a speeding fine, parking ticket, whatever it may be, and you get a letter and there's loads of text in a box, guess what that means? If it's in a box, it's in a separate jurisdiction, it's off the page. But because you read in 2D style and not 3D, you see that as that letter, that text, and you go, that must apply to me then, it's on the piece of paper. No, it's in a box, it's in a separate jurisdiction. You've got to learn this stuff, because they're literally stripping the wealth out of men and women like there's no tomorrow. Now, arrangement of words. There's so many different examples I could say on this one, but we've got an amazing guy at Sovereign Project, and he's a notary of the public. Anyone know what a notary is? You don't know what a notary is? Jeez. Okay, get to my workshop 4 o'clock and I will run through that one. Now, true meaning of words. So many words have different meanings, like the name, surname. So for example, if I said to you, what's your family name? Say, for example, your name's John Smith. You go, Smith. What does family name mean? It's passed down through the generations, from grandfather to dad to you to your son. That's family, okay? It means house, passing it down through the house. But what does surname mean? Anyone? Yes, well done. Surname means surety. If you agree to the title surname, you're now surety for the debt. This is why most government documentation asks you for what your surname is. Okay, so surname also means you're responsible for the performance of others. Wow, really? Brilliant. So, put it this way, the government get your money, tax, they spend it, they go and borrow some more money from a financial institution, they get that money and they spend it. Guess what? The government are on the hook for debt, but they make you bloody well pay for it because you agreed to the title surname. You're the surety. Surety is debtor of. So if you agree to the title surname, congratulations. Well done. You're paying for debt. Now I could go on for hours about this sort of stuff, but I need to move on. Now, law. Does anyone know what the definition of law is? And the room is silent. Because law is placed upon you every single day, and we don't know what it means. Okay, so law, very simple. It's universal and has to be evicted. It's a too big jigsaw puzzle. So if I was to break the law, that's murder, theft, rape, fraud. If someone says to me, oh, you broke the law there, Carl, because you've done 32 miles an hour in a 30 zone. No, that's not law, that's policy. Okay, you need to know the difference between law and legal. I could spend hours on this, but I haven't got much time, so it's just touching on the difference between law and legal. So, very slow. Come on. Be well trained. Here we go. That's probably one slide too ahead. But anyway, so legislation. Now, our government do not create law. They create colour of law. Colour of law means offer of legislation. If you offer it via legal title and registration, you now agree to legislation, policies, acts and statutes, guidelines, acts, bills, mandates, notices, rules, and licenses. If you agree to accept. But the problem is, no one knows how to decline invitation. No one knows in this room how to protect your rights and protect your wealth. So if you've got Bitcoin somewhere, how are you going to protect it? If Bitcoin is sovereign, the biggest jigsaw puzzle missing is you, because you're not sovereign and you're waiving your rights left, right and centre and giving away your authority. How scary is that? Now, most people in here now should know the difference between money, currency and fiat currency. Yeah, we'll agree on that? You know what fiat currency is? It's no value. No value. Bitcoin, value. Gold, value. I buy a helicopter, value. Fiat currency, no value. So they scammed you. But where else are they scamming you? It's in the language. Need to learn the language. Mandates. I just want to touch this one. People being mandated left, right, and centre a couple of years ago. What does mandate mean? So, for example, if you're going to employ me, sir, Kevin, and you're the boss, we have an interview, you employ me, we've now got a contract between us. I'm the employee of that company and I've got a contract, right? So Kevin would turn around to me and goes, Carl, we're going to change policy and we need to mandate you. Brilliant, okay, so what we're going to do now is you're going to create a new contract. I'm going to agree to the mandate. I'm going to sign the contract. You're going to sign the contract. Now I've been mandated. That's what it means. Where people are being mandated left, right, and centre, and there's no freaking contract. They cannot mandate you if there's no contract. They cannot mandate you if you haven't signed the bloody contract. But people are being mandated left, right, and centre because they don't understand the language, and you're giving away your rights all the bloody time. Now, this is the big one. Registration. What does it mean to register? When you register anything, you give away power of attorney. When you register anything, you give away the equitable value. When you register, you give away the controlling interest. So I'm going to link this to property. So if you have a home and you want to have planning permission, because you've registered with land registry, and I'll talk more about that in the workshop, when you want to have an extension, guess what you've got to do? You've got to ask permission from a higher authority because they have the controlling interest in the land. The council. 5 minutes. Okay. Thank you very much. So, registration, building, extension, asking permission from a higher authority because you've registered. When you register anything, you give away power of attorney. You also give away ownership. And most people go, yeah, I've got ownership. I've got a car outside. Really? Look at your logbook. What does it say? Registered keeper. When you have a laptop and you open it up and turn it on, it says username, not owner name. Going back to the car, look at your P5 form. It says this is not proof of ownership because what have you done? You've registered with the DVLA. You've given away ownership of your car. So what does ownership mean? Ship is maritime law. It means there's two parties. If there's ownership, there's a higher authority. When you register your car, when you register your property, you've now given away ownership. There's a higher authority and they have control. I've got a lot of blank faces looking at me going, is this guy for real? Yeah, sadly I am. Okay, moving on. Come on. It's a badly trained dog this is. Come on. Here we go. Right, very, very quickly, I'm just going to touch on this. The United Kingdom is not the land. The United Kingdom is a corporation. It's registered. It has a DUNS number. Every council, every police station, every government are registered. Registered corporations. They have to get you into contract for them to have authority over you. And this is why I am sovereign. Because I'm setting myself up so I am sovereign. I have supreme reign over my authority and I'm operating outside the government's jurisdiction. Sounds a little bit confusing, right? But we're showing men and women how to do this. And we'll talk about more on jurisdiction if you come to the workshop. Now, this is my biggest project to date. Now, if you don't know what's going on with our farming industry, then well, where have you been? Our farmers are getting absolutely decimated at the moment. Land grab, inheritance tax. The food, our food system is in an absolute crisis. Now, strangely, I don't know why, please, let me know. But farmers are coming to the Sovereign Project asking for guidance, asking for assistance. How can we save our land? How can we save our industry? So I've been networking all across the UK, Scotland, Midlands, South, showing farmers that step forward and ask for help how we protect their land. Got a solution. We know commerce, we know business, we know contracts, we know legal titles, and most importantly, we know the difference between a deed and a property title. Some of you are going, I don't even know what this guy's on about. That's why you need to learn. Because if you want to protect your land, if you want to protect your property, you need to learn this stuff. Same as with your Bitcoin. If you don't know the language, potentially you could register somewhere and give it up. Food for thought, right? Food for thought. Food. Didn't think of that. Okay, so we can touch on this very quickly. The global monetary system. In the UK, the global debt is increasing by £7,500 per minute. It's going to continue to grow. Most of you may be aware the debt clock in the US continues to grow. It's never, ever going to get paid off. This is why we need Bitcoin, because we need to protect our wealth. What was I going to say of this one? Now, this is why Labour, for example, are increasing taxes. Because they have to pay the national debt, the derivatives, which is basically out of control. This is why they're going after the farmers. This is why they're going after the food industry. This is why they're going after pensioners. This is why they're increasing tax. Now, if you use fiat currency, you're operating in in their oh my god, my brain's gone dead, in their economy. Okay, you need to learn how to operate outside their economy and protect your wealth so you don't get taxed. You need to know what playground to play in. If you don't know what playground to play in, you will get taxed and you will lose your wealth. Now the Sovereign Project, we've got so much going on. We've got a huge team that know exactly what they're doing. Like I said, I've talked around the workshops. It's free information we're giving out if you go to our workshops. We've also got an online course. We do not do this for money. Our online course is 68 quid. All right, it's 22 videos, it's 40 hours of content. You will learn how the entire system works. 68 bloody pounds, that's a meal out. That's a couple of beers for some of you. Okay, we do not do this for money. Come on, clicker. Come on. I also run a money masterclass with someone here, one of the organisers, and we do it every 2 months. So for our Sovereign members and for those that follow us on social media, giving you all the information that you need. It's mind-blowing. We have business directories where businesses are now learning to operate in the private so they can trade peer-to-peer and trade in the private between themselves and their clients. We've got 3 business directories. One is for healthcare practitioners that are absolutely fed up with the NHS and they're coming to us looking to set it up. We've got business directory for, time is up. So if you want to learn more information about this and the amazing things we're doing and the amazing opportunities you can have, come and join me in the workshop and I will give you an hour of content. Thank you very much for your time, much appreciated.
Okay, thanks a lot there, Carol from the Sovereign Project. So interesting, isn't it? Food for thought there, people. And if you start looking at this stuff, you're going to be blown away, basically. You think you've been conned with the money? Wait till you find out about the system. What's really going on, how we've been conned. All this. So next up, we're going to have a panel. We've got Robin Sayre that's going to be emceeing it. Come on, give her a hand there for Robin. And then Claire Marion is next as well. Give her a hand up there for Claire. Okay. And then we've got Paul Rogers, all the way in from Madeira. From Madeira. That's finance guy. And then we've got Ross Edwards up on Northern Ireland. And then we've got Daniel Prince. Give it a shout out there. Let's go. So, we're going to talk about Bitcoin maturing and take it away. Okay?
Thank you so much. Bitcoin maturing is really interesting when you look back like 10, 15 years where Bitcoin was, it's basically non-existing. It was like a small, maybe even like nerdy cypherpunk asset. And today we're here with big institutions, with presidents and everything going on. So I think that's the main conversation, the main direction where we want to take it today. In the first round, I want to just get the current state, where you think the speakers it is, and maybe give us some small introduction to yourself so the people get to know you guys. Take it away, Claire.
Hi, I'm Claire. By day, I'm a commodities trader, and by night, I'm a financial astrologer and always a Bitcoiner. So, I think the adoption of Bitcoin is really, really interesting. I think that we have moved from a point where it was a nerdy asset and it was super high risk. It was, nobody knew whether Bitcoin would survive or work as a project. And now it's the 5th largest asset in the world. And so I just think that that's a really interesting trajectory. And for anybody who thinks, am I too late to Bitcoin? Or, that's past, I should have gone in 15 years ago. It's not, it's just that the risk profile has completely changed. And so you're able to invest in something that is probably going to last till next year, and beyond. So that's really where we're at in adoption.
Great, thank you. So my name is Paul Rogers. And I think it's a fascinating topic because many of us may be just starting our Bitcoin journey. So we're infants in this process, and others may be quite senior in it. But Bitcoin as an asset class is also going through that. There was that old video game Pac-Man. I think it's retro cool now. But many people haven't even put their quarter in the machine to start playing it, and yet many others have been gobbling up those little sats for years. And many others are playing 3 or 4 or 5 levels deep, and that's where we are seeing the exchange-traded funds, the institutional adoption, the corporate adoption, the penetration into markets in traditional asset classes like bonds and convertible and preferred shares, that Bitcoin is playing a role that is far beyond what I think even the original parents might have envisioned it growing into.
Yeah, my name is Ross Edwards. I'm actually a postgraduate researcher at Queen's University of Belfast looking at Bitcoin mining and energy efficiency. I think currently what we see within Bitcoin is it's been growing massively over the past several years. So it's very important to understand the growth profile, as Paul said there. So I think the most important thing to bring in is sort of like those halving cycles and the institutional adoption. We've seen obviously the Bitcoin ETF growing faster than anything else. So as time goes on, over the next couple of years, we're likely to see the continued growth with the likes of the M2 supply going up as well. So yeah.
I'm Daniel Prince. I'm the host of the Once Bitten podcast. I actually worked in foreign exchange markets for 18 years. I spent 15 years in Singapore, so I come from the dark side. I came from fiat currency world and found Bitcoin, the bright orange light, and have been studying it since probably 2015. I say started falling down the rabbit hole. Started the podcast in 2020, and it's been very interesting coming from those financial markets to see actually how long it's taken for Wall Street, in air quotes, to get up to speed and to start adopting Bitcoin. Obviously, Michael Saylor is probably the best known spokesperson for this with what he's been doing at MicroStrategy, now Strategy. But with all of that comes concerns, which I think we're probably going to start touching on now. Yes, it's great to see big names giving, lending credence to what we've been ridiculed for buying for many years. Now seems as though it's in the newspaper headlines all of the time. It's on CNN, it's on Squawk Box. Everybody's talking about it. And so you might feel, well, I've been vindicated, especially with your friends and family that have been pointing fingers at you, calling you crazy idiots for the last however long that you've been buying Bitcoin. But as alluded to, there's a deeper worry that I think many of us share on this panel. So I'll hand it back to Robin and we can get into that discussion.
Maybe before, I think this is an extremely interesting discussion how the natural progression of Bitcoin, that everyone can buy, like it's permissionless, not only plebs but also institutions can buy it, which is, I think Jeff Booth said it, it's the worst thing about Bitcoin is that your enemy can also have it. How do you look at the ETFs, the FASB rulings, the institutional adoption? How does this change Bitcoin, or how did this change Bitcoin since 2020? Let's get directly there.
Yeah, okay. I just got some figures actually from Venix.ai, which I think is slightly better than ChatGPT for privacy reasons. I asked it, how many spot Bitcoin ETFs are there currently available? There are 12, and they were greenlit in January 2024 in the US. That's where they are. As of the latest data, the total holdings of all Bitcoin ETFs amount to approximately 1.12 million Bitcoin tied up in Bitcoin ETFs. Based on the current Bitcoin price of approximately $108,000, that is $121.2 billion of Bitcoin that is now being held in what we would say are centralized hands. We don't know how they're holding them, where they're holding them. Are they on Coinbase? Are they in multi-sig arrangements? Are they being rehypothecated? Because none of the math seems to have it doesn't work out over the last year and a half that they've been stacking this Bitcoin. And this is just the ETFs. This isn't talking about how much MicroStrategy has bought, or MetaPlanet, or any of these other new companies that are now being created, like Jack Mallers 21. Just literally a company being created, not to offer goods or services or value into the economy, but to just drain money out of the debt market so they can buy Bitcoin, which is weird. Why are we not having discussions about this? It's very easy to cheer and look at this number go up, but are we really here for that? Are we really here to watch our number go up in euro sticker price or dollar sticker price, or are we here for the parallel economy?
How do you look at that, Claire?
Well, I definitely have some concerns as well, for sure. But I also think that it's a part of the process. And like you said, the best thing about Bitcoin is it's for everybody. But the worst thing about Bitcoin is it's for everybody as well. But I think what the most important thing is that we can't really stop that flow. And we do also need that to become the Bitcoin standard. Like we also need to shift the entire economy into the Bitcoin standard. So I think there's a balance between that. But I think the most important thing is instead of addressing those concerns directly, is onboarding more real people into Bitcoin. So as I said before, our risk profile has completely changed, and it's no longer, is Bitcoin going to survive? It's now how much of that 21 million is going to be held by real people, or how much of it is going to be held by big corporations and ETFs and things like that. And I think that's something that we all have to answer for ourselves.
Paul, I'm really interested. How do you look at the conversions between, we like that Bitcoin is getting into more hands, and obviously Michael Saylor and Strategy, they made a great job in explaining to people why Bitcoin, and a lot of people bought because of them. I'm one of them. And I got into Bitcoin because of Michael Saylor, basically. But then we also don't want only institutions buying, and especially this cycle, it feels like institutions are buying and retail is completely asleep. When we look at all the Google Trends, YouTube searches, and all the metrics where we can see a little bit of retail folks. How do you look at that kind of differentiation?
Sure. So just background, I was a financial advisor in the US for 20 years. So I worked with regular people saving for their retirement and managing money in retirement. And I worked with large institutional, investors who had ETFs. And I had no love lost for those centralized financial authorities and aggregators of capital. And yet that's the world we live in. So the fact that they are moving into this asset class comes with positives and it comes with concerns, as you pointed out, Daniel. But it's reality. The other side of that reality is, while they're growing tremendously, most retail financial advisors still can't even offer them to their clients. So we are at the infancy, even in those products, of advisors being able to add them into portfolios. Most institutions won't let advisors do that. No firm that I ever worked for would allow me to have the portfolio that I have on their balance sheet. They would perceive it to be way too risky. So it's still at its infancy. And it's just part of the transition process, I think. And we do have to monitor and be aware of it. But the best thing we can do is everybody, all the regular people, start getting on board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I completely agree with everyone there. I think massively what's really important here to understand is that when we're looking at institutional adoption, perfect, thank you. Institutional adoption is a problem because they're actually buying as much Bitcoin as being produced. So we're going to get to a point in equilibrium, as Michael Saylor said. January 2024, we started the biggest Bitcoin gold rush in history. And probably over the next 10 years, we're going to get to a stage where there's actually only, I think it gets to less than 1 million Bitcoin left to be mined at this stage. We're going to get to a point where there's not enough Bitcoin to be bought. The price potentially will exponentially grow. We're going to get to a stage where it won't make sense to sell your Bitcoin for fiat. It just will not make sense. I think the main point here is that we want individuals, to get involved, to understand it. The sovereignty project that we just heard Carl talk about there, it is fantastic as well. So I think the main thing is, it's understanding, will you maybe understand Bitcoin? Do your family understand Bitcoin? Do your friends understand Bitcoin? How are you communicating it? As the island of Ireland, we probably struggle to adapt. We're very negative on everyone, on each other. If someone's doing well, to tell them, we don't really like that. So we seem to drag each other down. So Bitcoin's actually, it sort of forms its own culture, and it's a perfect example of bringing community together like today. So fantastic.
Claire, please.
Yeah, I think the biggest message also in this is that we are in this gap. Like, institutions are coming, but we are in this gap. And a lot of people who are, surrounded by financial advisors or buying through financial advisors, they haven't bought yet. So we do have this opportunity where, for the first time in history, where normal people can get into an asset before the institution. So let's take advantage of that.
Front running is illegal if you're an institution, but you can all do it legally.
I want to get with Daniel, what do you think is the biggest threat from more and more institutions buying and the buying power of Bitcoin is centralizing there and not at the individual level?
I think it's an attack on the narrative of Bitcoin just being a store of value rather than a medium of exchange. I mean, it's a peer-to-peer cash settlement. This is what we're here for. I think, who told me last night? It might have been Mike, it might have been Knut. The strategy tweet about Pizza Day was very concerning. It just seems very off the cuff, but like you provide pizza for your workers, your employees on Bitcoin Pizza Day. We used fiat. What the hell? You know, this is one of the leading voices in Bitcoin. And, you know, where's the narrative switched from wait until Apple release a Bitcoin Lightning wallet as just part of everyday app that is there on your phone. Let's get the hands of that into 8 billion people. That's being switched to Bitcoin's a store of value. And this is very, very concerning because without us using Bitcoin and without us interacting in the economy and talking to the merchants and the everyday people as to the importance of Bitcoin, you know, money for the people by the people. Let's get back to the basics here. Like I said, the headlines are being stolen. The headlines are being written by the powers that control the narrative. And this is, again, another concern I have is the rise at the moment of these companies that I talked about earlier just to accrue Bitcoin. But now lending is being offered to you, the holders of Bitcoin. The siren song of you don't need to sell your Bitcoin. You can lend it. You can lend this pristine collateral. You can lend your Bitcoin to me. I will give you fiat, and you have to pay me 12% interest on that fiat whilst I hold your Bitcoin. Where does the fiat come from? Where does the fiat come from behind that person who's offering you the loan? They're probably getting it straight from liquidity from Wall Street, who have direct access to the printing press. So you're going to be paying interest on fake fiat currency, which Carl talked about earlier, while somebody else holds your Bitcoin. And then when the price starts fluctuating, which it does, you're going to get margin called, and you're going to lose your Bitcoin. So this is something else that you've got to take very, very close attention to. Just get it back to basics. It's a medium of exchange, and that's what we've got to really start having these conversations about.
It's a really good point, and I think Jeff Booth is really big on that whole topic. If Bitcoin fails as a medium of exchange, it also fails as a store of value. How do you look at that, Paul, when we look at medium of exchange of Bitcoin and how necessary it is for the whole story, and how dangerous this borrow against the Bitcoin, just give the institutions all the Bitcoin and you keep the fiat?
Well, I think it can be both. And it should be both. You know, if we're talking about Bitcoin maturing, so who's raised a teenager here? They've made choices that we didn't agree with. They went through a process that was very painful and very difficult. And ultimately, the question is, did we instill the proper values? Did we give them a philosophy and an orientation to life to ultimately contribute value to life, to the people around them? Or do we instill in them the values of extraction? And that's ultimately the core issue that we have in the fiat economy, which is a system built on extraction of your time, energy, and your labor. But we're always going to have to contribute value. And ultimately, I think that's going to be the big fight in this transition as we mature through this teenage stage, is this going to develop into a mature, wise, entity that has values, and those values are going to depend upon all of us to live up to them and to contribute value, and not just see Bitcoin as a way to extract value and get what's mine while I can out of the system and live apart from everybody else. I mean, if you want to live off the grid, that's fine, but we still have to contribute value, and it's ultimately the values that are going to matter.
Interesting. The values of Bitcoin is really interesting because there's so many different things in Bitcoin, and we all portray our own values on the Bitcoin, and they kind of mirror us. How do you look at the values of Bitcoin and how important it is that we not only form like, oh, it's money and you use it as that, but also we really trying to shape a revolution, a paradigm shift here?
Yeah, well, I think Simon Dixon explains our current world situation really in a really interesting way, where we have Bitcoin that's proof of work, and we have the US dollar, which is proof of weapons. And so I think when we come through this value system is that a lot of people in the world today, most people, are really wanting to shift out of that system. Like, we don't want to be perpetually working 9 to 5 in a cubicle, but to pay taxes into a system that's really going and getting us all involved in foreign wars and all of these kind of things. So I think that those kind of moral human values are going to come through the Bitcoin system for sure.
Interesting. Ross, I'm interested in how you look at the media exchange and how important this is for the overall Bitcoin story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think medium exchange is difficult right now because we have this infant stage or this teenager stage that we're looking to progress through. But I think the real reason here that we need to understand is that we need a base rate. So if you look at monetary policy for the past 100 years, generally we pegged to silver back in the 19th century, we pegged to gold during the 20th century. We need a peg. Bitcoin as a strategic reserve would become that peg, but currently there's nothing to value it against properly that we can create a peg. Like, we say one Bitcoin is 10 kilograms of gold, 20 kilograms of gold. We say one Bitcoin is $100 million, $5 million. I think getting to the point where you can actually use it as a medium exchange where we're all confident that it's going to be growing probably 20 or 30% a year based on monetary supply, but that should start to tail off, especially as Bitcoin mining gets more and more competitive, as we get less and less Bitcoin left to mine. So I think at some stage, it could be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, we'll get to a point where we're able to peg Bitcoin effectively and efficiently against assets. Whether that's the entire real estate market, parts of different infrastructure being built. The current Bitcoin energy infrastructure is growing. It's probably the fastest growing energy infrastructure in the entire world right now. It's in Ethiopia, all over Africa, North America, Texas are doing absolutely fantastic work as well. So Bitcoin's actually forming the backbone of the entire world energy system, and a lot of people don't understand that at this stage, but that's where my research actually aligns. And particularly just to briefly talk about that, we're looking at wind curtailment, and that's excess wind in Ireland that's not being utilised, and we can actually use Bitcoin mining here to make wind energy more efficient and actually power our grid better.
Bitcoin mining also is interesting because it's also very institutionalized already, and in like 4 or 5 big pools, and they're like really big miners. How do you look at the same risk that we are now talking with buying Bitcoin also at the institutional level for having the Bitcoin miners and the templates of that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've read lots of stories about 2010 when I'm probably running around playing football as a teenager. People were mining Bitcoin on PlayStation 3s, on the strangest devices. You could pull what would be probably millions and millions of dollars out of a PlayStation 3 now that couldn't probably power anything at this stage. So yeah, I think the ASICs miners, there's a lot of new technology coming into Bitcoin mining that's going to make it even more efficient. It'll go under 10 joules per terahash. It will become difficult, and I don't really understand why individuals can get involved, but the likes of maybe governments or institutions that have already been involved in the Bitcoin mining space can help to make this more green, more sustainable, and make it that we can actually have an encompassed economy out of the back of this.
Interesting. For the second half of the last half of the talk, I want to focus on the maturing in the future. How we can now we have the current state. We've talked how we got here and what are the concerns that we have on ownership side, but also on Bitcoin mining. Let's start with Daniel. How do you see Bitcoin maturing in the next 5-10 years? What are the next stages? And maybe also important for the people here, what can they contribute to making that Bitcoin shift as good as possible and driving it in a good direction, not in a bad one?
Well, we've got a very watershed moment coming up. For those of you that earn in euros, who's aware of the CBDC coin that's coming out in October? Hands up. You know what Christine Lagarde is planning for the euro? So your medium of exchange is about to change whether you like it or not. You're going to get rugged. Your euros, and how are they going to price them? To your point earlier, or to your point now, what's it going to be worth? They're going to pull a number out of the air. One CBDC digital euro is equivalent to X amount of your actual euros, which you spend your time and energy to earn. You put your time, energy, value, and skills into the marketplace to earn this euro. In October, that could be worthless or phased out. You've gone through this before. The Irish pound. Who remembers that? Does anybody still talk about it? It's gone completely. This is a real concern. And this isn't, Holland, Belgium, France, Spain. We have hundreds of millions of people facing this, months away. So I can't tell you what's going to happen with Bitcoin in regard to that in 5 years' time. How are you going to price Bitcoin against the digital euro? Or are they going to price it for you? Are they going to come out with this number? And how are they going to get you to make the transition? I imagine, first of all, they're going to give you a different exchange rate. They're going to dangle the carrot. If you change your euros now download the CBDC app, here's the exchange rate you can exchange now. That lasts for 2 weeks. And then after that, it's going to drop by 10%. 2 weeks later, it's going to drop by 10%. If you want your welfare, if you want your child benefits, whatever it is, your health pay, you have to switch because that's the only way you're going to get it. That is all going to be done now in the digital euro and the CBDC. So how you value that against Bitcoin? I have no idea. None.
Yeah, even just to add on that, it's difficult. Just to add on Daniel's point there, it's difficult to talk about the future, especially in finance. Like we know in the financial world, everything's changing. Things can change with a drop of a hat. Donald Trump, God knows what he's going to say on Sunday. But it really is a crazy world out there in finance. So more to the point, if we look over the past 5 years, the euro, the Canadian dollar, the American dollar, the Kuwaiti dinar, they've all declined by about 90% in the past 5 years versus Bitcoin. That trend's likely to continue. Over the next 5 years, we could see that fall by another 80%. So we're going to get to a point where paper money is literally worthless. You'll see that in Argentina. We've already seen that. You can see that during World War II. You've got all the economies collapsed every single year. The French, the German mark. We've heard the stories. We've read the history. And it looks like we're coming to a similar point.
Yeah. So no one knows, but it can be terrifying what is going to happen with CBDCs and all centralized currencies. But I think we have to have the understanding and the awareness. And I don't think it has to be that complicated because it's really just as simple. If money is simply a technology to exchange or store value between its creators, all of us in this room, then how can a government create money out of nothing? That makes no sense. And if more people will begin to understand that, you can realize that that's the power we need to take away because that's the power, that's the force that is stealing from all of us. And if we do that, then we can be, and I say in my book, loving resistance fighters against those forces, all right, which are going to steal our sovereignty and our wealth from us. Who knows how it's going to play out? Again, exactly what this teenager is going to grow up into. But if we return to the values, the character traits that all of us need to exhibit as we live our lives and our financial transactions, then at some point, and I don't know whether it's 5 years or 50 years or 500 years from now, I think we can do what that meme says of fix the money to fix the world, but I think there's a gap in there. Just fixing the money is not going to fix the world. It's going to take all of us and our values to then be able to move towards fixing the world. But that's really what the project is all about, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, as we said before, we are in this period of this gap. And we have to also, I think the problem is sometimes we try to view Bitcoin through the lens of our current understanding. And it's really like trying to explain TikTok and Instagram to somebody who's still playing Worm on their Nokia. And we just don't have any context for it. So part of being a Bitcoiner is also being able to hold that space of the unknown. We don't yet have context for what Bitcoin is for. But I think this is also the argument of why it's really important to become a medium of exchange, the CBDC argument, because if it's just a store of value and it's just held by governments, you know, like the majority of the gold is held by sovereign wealth funds and governments and family offices and things like that, then for the rest of humanity, it's just, they're just issuing these CBDCs which they can control and print at will and really have no value. So it's so important for us in this period of the gap that we stake our claim in whatever the future holds for Bitcoin, that we at least have our own stake in that world, rather than having to rely on our politicians to do right by us, which has never really gone that well, to be honest.
I'll just add, you know, use cases develop because there's a need. And different cultures and different societies and different places on the globe have different needs. Many of us in the developed West don't have a problem with a medium of exchange. If you live in Africa, you have a problem with a medium of exchange. So it's a very useful technology for that. You have less of an issue with store of value. In the West, we have a major issue with store of value. Perhaps the silver lining with the CBDC is people will begin to see is, I have a need for a medium of exchange apart from the one that the government is giving us. And it'll only take the next COVID crisis where they use the enforcement mechanisms and the control mechanisms from the CBDC maybe to wake a few more people up. But guess what? You're in this room, so you can wake up before that.
It's interesting because I think like 2020, a lot of people came into Bitcoin. A lot of people woke up. This is like when I ask when are you getting orange pill, 2020 is one of the times where a lot of people actually came into Bitcoin. Maybe CBDCs and those adoption waves of fiat currencies actually wake people a little bit more up to like, oh, I don't really own that money. I don't really have control of it. How do you look at that, Ross?
Yeah, well, like I would definitely think orange is the new green. You know, the US dollar has destroyed their currency for years. It's a continuation trend. So I think the main thing is to really understand where are we going and where can we go together. You know, it's not about bringing in corporations. Like I've worked in financial institutions. You know, they're happy to buy this asset and hold it for 100 years. Like they'll do that and they'll never move. But to create a medium of exchange, to create an economy, we need some way to exchange for goods and services. You know, we all have our skill sets, we all have our passions. We all have, you know, the thing we want to do, we want to wake up and do every day. We want to get paid for that. You know, we want to get paid for that appropriately. So I think it's just finding the balance there.
Just, I want to build on something from the talk before, Carl, which he delivered a great speech there. Looking forward to his workshop at 4 o'clock. The fiat currency and the national debt that we are being forced to pay. So where does that money come from? The government will issue bonds to the central bank, the ECB in the case of the Euro, or the Bank of England if you're in the UK, or the Federal Reserve if you're in the US. This money gets printed by those guys. It's just digital. It's like keystrokes. They send it to the government and then they promise them to pay back the interest at 10%, let's say, over 10, 15, 20 years, however long those government bonds are. So that money has come from nowhere. And we are the ones that are paying the tax to help pay it back. So if you think the guys that can create the money, whenever they want, why would they ever want it back? With interest. They don't need it. They don't care for it. What they really want are assets and mineral-rich lands. That's the whole game here. That's the fiat fuckery that we are fighting. And taking self-sovereignty, please don't have Bitcoin on an exchange, because if you're on an exchange, you are Mr. Smith in all capitals. It's not your Bitcoin, it's not your account. That's why you need the hardware wallets. And this is, you know, it creates a need, as Paul was saying. These hardware wallets have been around now for a long time. There's Bull Bitcoin over there, and go and have a workshop with Teo. Find out how you can start buying Bitcoin KYC free, and how you can start storing that offline in a self-sovereign manner. So you're not contributing any more to this system. This doesn't happen overnight. This is just a learning process that we all have to go through. And the materials are there. Paul's book is out there. My podcast is out there. There's other podcasters here. There's other companies here. All it takes are questions and humility and a willing to learn.
I think that's why a great I wanted to do a last drop, like once last message before we end up this panel. And I think this from Daniel, it was already very good in that regard. Ross, do you have one final message for the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Buy Bitcoin. I think it's as simple as that, really. Yeah, no, just to add, so I'm an active investor. I've been trading for years, unsuccessfully, unfortunately. But like, I have a lot of experience in financial markets. I've worked for some of the big companies in London, New York as well, on Wall Street. The main takeaway, I think, is just we're taught that finance is difficult. It can't be understood. You know, but there's a reason that we're taught that, and the reason that we're taught that is that we don't understand it. And when we don't understand it, as Carl alluded to, we need to overstand. What that means is we need to be on top. We need to be sovereign. We need to be on top of our own currency. We need to manage our own finances, and together you do that. You know, you build a network. It's, you know, if you own millions and millions of assets, you're not doing it alone. You have a network there. So I think just most importantly, network today. Don't be afraid to speak to anyone, and yeah, have a great day. Please enjoy the rest of the conference.
So I liken much of what's been described here about the governments as a fire-breathing dragon. It's a war machine, it's a dragon that steals our time and energy and labor, and the fuel of its fire is fiat currency. So if we begin to starve this dragon of its fuel, whether as a medium of exchange or as a store of value, then less and less fire will it breathe to burn all of us.
I mean, my final message is also buy Bitcoin for sure. But I think, you know, as I said, I'm also a financial astrologer, and we are in a time where the age of personal responsibility is upon us, and we've been led into a space where we outsource every single thing in our lives to an expert to do it for us. And this has been an absolute scam. And so now is really the time to take back, educate yourself, whether it's your health, whether it's educating your children, whether it's your finances. Every single aspect of our life that we outsource to experts, we need to reclaim that. And we can first start by buying Bitcoin and reclaiming your own personal financial sovereignty. So that's where it's at.
Thank you so much. I think it was an amazing panel, and yeah, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, give it up for those amazing speakers.
Okay, hello. That was a lovely panel. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks, Robin. Thanks, everybody. Just waiting for Knuts now. It's probably in the toilet or something like that. Here he comes. Yay, let's go. Knuts.
Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. I'm Knut. I'm an international village idiot, and I'm very happy to be here. This is not my first time in Ireland, but it is my first time in Dublin, and so far I've seen a motorway and a hotel. And it's fantastic. And all of these nice Bitcoiners sitting down like obedient school children. So I'm going to start this thing off by doing a little gymnastics routine I've developed over the years. So if you can all stand up, please. I love having an audience. So we're going to do a little dance routine, so start by relaxing. All right? And then hands in the air. And fall down like this and hug one another. Friends, because we're all big. Come on. Okay. maybe that's a bit, yeah. Maybe that was a bit cringe. Let's try another one. All right, hands in the air. And hands down by your sides like this. Turn to the left or right or wherever you want to turn. And ass back. And you go, fuck the banks! All right. My talk is like I've self-censored here and called it why Paddy should tell his employer, the real title is why Paddy should tell his employer to go fuck himself, especially if he's a public sector employee. And yeah. I found some pictures here on the internet to rant to. So yeah, let's see how this works. Ireland. This is the most Irish picture I could find on the internet. A lovely country, a green island, and I was embarrassingly, I realized how embarrassingly little I knew about Irish history. So I had to do some research, and I turned to the most reliable source on the internet, like random YouTube videos. And I figured out a couple of things and drew my own conclusions. So where are we? Yeah, here's I think you know what this is. This is St. Patrick's Cross, which is a part of the Union Jack, because before you guys became independent, you were a part of the British Empire. So they were your masters and you were their slaves, and before you reclaimed your independence. So what happened? Well, there was a lot of farmers on Ireland, and you raised cattle and sold meat to the British Empire, and you kept the potatoes for yourselves, because as we learned from the Lord of the Rings movies, Irish people love potatoes. But then coronavirus hit the potato industry, and all the potatoes got COVID, and everyone started to starve, which is why you guys decided to hop on dangerous boats and flee to the newfound world, America. So here's a picture of starving Irish people fleeing to America. And here's also, oh, this is harder to use than I think. Oh yeah, I'm not an apple guy, more of a potato guy. So here's a sack of potatoes yet unaffected by coronavirus. It's a big thing in the 19th century. And here we can see a bunch of people leaving, bringing as many belongings as they could to flee the clutches of the British Empire. We sort of forced you guys to send stuff over to the UK, over to England, instead of keeping it for yourself. So everyone was looking for more freedom. What's his name? David Hasselhoff is also looking for freedom. That's a deep reference, but usually when people flee one country for another, it's because they yearn for more freedom, because they're in the clutches of a vile government. And as so here, sure, the potato plague had something to do with it too, but the land of opportunity lay on the other side of the Atlantic. And a lot of the Irish had a huge influence on the United States. A bunch of Irishmen signed the Declaration of Independence. As you can see here, marked in green. These were the gentlemen who co-signed the Declaration of Independence. So Irish influence is all over America. And some of you guys got jobs in the health and safety department. Others took to the streets and fought rival gangs in New York, as depicted by Martin Scorsese's beautiful movie Gangs of New York here. The Irish versus the inbred Americans. And as I said, others got jobs in the health and safety department. Men back then had a different work ethic. Let's just say that. What that has to do with sound money, or whether that was because of the gold standard or not, is debatable. But the bureaucratic machine was smaller, and people could build majestic things in a short amount of time. And in the beginning, America was booming because they had laissez-faire free market rules. So sound money capitalism showed its true potential to the world.